It's 5 p.m. and President Trump's DEI deadline has just passed. And woken federal bureaucrats are fleeing their offices. Much more on that later. But first to the bishop who turned her lectern into a sermon on wokeness. Marianne Budd hijacking the sacred prayer service at the National Cathedral with President Trump and J.D. Vance in attendance, thinking it was the perfect place to preach her progressive gospel.
There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
But what this woke bishop didn't count on is that President Trump is one heck of a counterpuncher. 47 going scorched earth on the nasty clergywoman, calling her service boring and uninspiring, and adding that she and the church owed the public an apology. And no surprise here, the woke bishop is capitalizing on her newfound fame, making all the stops to liberal outlets like CNN, and then worshiping with the 5 disciples of The View.
Unity requires a certain degree of mercy and compassion and understanding. We need to be merciful, and I was trying to counter the narrative that is so divisive and polarizing, and in which real people are being harmed. How could it not be politicized, right? We're in a hyper-political climate. I was trying to speak a truth that I felt needed to be said, but to do it in as respectful and kind a way as I could.
All right, Jesse, he's not even 24 hours into his presidency, and it's such an opportunity. I mean, there they are at the National Cathedral, and everything was very unified. You know, it was when you saw the luncheon and you saw people in Congress. I mean, it was a unity event, and it was stained by this bishop.
And it's like the one time Trump goes to church. The one time, and he gets lectured. That's why he plays golf on Sunday. Because if he wanted to get lectured by a skinny liberal woman, he'd just watch Maddow. He is a Presbyterian. You take a big risk when you go into an Episcopalian service. Let this be a lesson to you. Pastor Jeffers said something very poignant. She insulted rather than encouraged the president. She said that trans and illegals are scared. Well, what about Laken Riley? She was scared. What about Riley Gaines? She was scared. I don't think this bishop ever talked about those 2 women. I wouldn't know because I'm not in her service, though. Christianity is a rules-based religion, as are most religions. They have the 10 commandments. Don't do this, don't do that. So when you apply to become a citizen of another country, you wait in line. What if someone went to communion at this bishop's service, cut the whole line, guzzled the blood of Christ, stole the body of Christ, and then slapped her in the face? Would she have mercy on that person? No. You don't run a confessional like you run a country. What she's doing is she's exploiting mercy in order to judge Donald Trump. You can be merciful, but that doesn't mean you just give blanket amnesty to everybody. And we don't want to have compassion at the expense of civilization, because this woman's compassion wreaks havoc on our borders, our sovereignty, our bathrooms, our privacy. She's lucky this didn't happen on day one when he was a dictator, because he would have put her in prison.
You know, Dana, it's the left that's always talking about, you know, the separation of church and state. There's no separation there.
Years and years ago, when I worked on Capitol Hill, I went to a church on Capitol Hill, and I loved it. And I loved my singles group. We used to meet every Wednesday, and on Thursdays we would do the volunteer work together. We loved it. And over time, it was pretty clear that the politics were taking over. And I stopped going, and part of the reason it was this. I like being reminded about mercy and redemption and grace and not judging others. Those are all things that you could have said. But I think what the country just voted on was to say we want less politics in our everyday lives. And you have a serious dearth of people going to church in the United States. A lot of people would have tuned in yesterday. That was a way to be persuasive. Like, here's a good place to come and to feel good about yourself, to meet other people, to be in fellowship with your fellow citizens. And instead, I think people were like, wow, you've just pushed politics simply because you've been given the floor and you were completely unpersuasive.
You know, Harold, she's suggesting that, you know, lesbian, gays, children, their lives are in danger. She's making this stuff up. How long are they going to continue to lie about this stuff?
You say they, you're being...
The left. I mean, you know, Rachel Maddow's going to be thrown off MSNBC, and The View's going to be thrown off air, and people are going to die. How long are they going to continue with this nonsense that no one believes?
Well, it's good to be back around this table.
Okay.
I think that... I think we all have to... I didn't interpret her remarks. I go to church a lot, and I listen to prayers that sometimes inspire me, rattle me, inform me, and sometimes upbraid me, because I think pastors come from a tradition of study and discipleship and teaching and leadership. Remember, Jesus in the Bible was always sought the company of sinners and those ostracized and those marginalized, even to the chagrin of Pharisees and the high priests in the church. So this pastor, she comes from that. And I just find it in my life that it's good not to quarrel with a pastor, regardless of his or her faith. Even if you think the pastor might be talking to you and saying something that, again, rattles you or makes you a little upset. I rewatched what she said, Judge, and I get everybody can take have their opinion on this and interpret it the way they want. I just heard her saying that from her own tradition of study and her own tradition of discipleship and her denomination, that she would hope that politicians would act with compassion and mercy. We can disagree with it. But I don't think it's a good look to be fighting with a bishop. That's just me.
She asked, you know what? First of all, she asked for it. She's fighting with the president of the United States. She is judging him. She feels empowered. He's in office less than 24 hours. When the country wants unity, she's pulling up the leftist progressive talking points. It's not about her in her role as a bishop.
Well, that's what she is.
It's about her. I don't care what she is.
Okay.
It's about her and her role as a politician, using the church and the pulpit of the church to engage in political discussion. Am I wrong, Greg?
I would never say you're wrong,
Thank you.
Judge. I agree. I think what Harold is speaking about has been the problem for our culture for a long time, which is how the spiritual realm is being exploited, gamed by people who use it to block themselves from criticism. So she uses her spiritual authority to block criticism because she's a bishop. Don't argue with a bishop. She's a bishop. And, it comes from a long history of this. She's not defending sinners or the poor. She's not like Jesus. She's talking about behaviors. And she's cloaking these behaviors under the false guise of compassion. I mean, she's lecturing a guy who got shot about being in danger. Who is she implying that is putting these people in danger? Are there guys in MAGA hats that are mutilating healthy children, removing their genitals? No, that's her team. That's the people she's defending. Does she have any evidence that children are in danger by this new administration, the administration that is trying to rescue missing kids through this border fiasco? She may have a congregation, but she has no class. She saw an opportunity to feed her ego. She knew this was going to happen, and she rushed to the trough. On the bright side, I have to say, she didn't call him Hitler, which is good. But who knew Satan wore granny glasses and stole his haircut from John Denver just because you're spiritual, Harold, and you are? Doesn't make you smart, holy, or even good. We somehow ascribe those qualities like that, and imposters are here to exploit it. Satan isn't going to show up in red tights holding a pitchfork. It's going to show up like that. She's an imposter. She exploits compassion for terrible, terrible beliefs. There is no compassion in saying that trans kids are in danger. They're in danger by the trans ideology. And when you're talking about immigrants being in danger, Is she not aware that legal immigrants overwhelmingly favor a strong border because they like rules? They like the fact that you cannot cheat. You have to stand in line. I love also how she appreciates the immigrants for all the dishes they wash. She's the hood ornament for imposter morality. And she throws her weight, the church, to defend horrible things. So there you go, Harold.
Can I just say, Reverend Graham, I thought, gave one of the great invocations at President Trump's inaugural. He started off by saying, Mr. President, the last 4 years, there are times I'm sure you thought it was pretty dark, but look what God has done. We praise him and give him glory. Some people interpret that to mean that he thought that Jesus wanted President Trump to. I just thought it was him. Don't know, Judge.
Yeah.
I'm siding with you. I just think it is I just think you don't fight with pastors. That's my only thing.
That's not a pastor.
But
that is Satan, Harold. It's Satan.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.